You're listening to Inside the Locker Room with Wimp and Barry Sanderson on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
Our little library about some reading and writing exercises with the visiting authors. For more details, follow their Facebook page at Literacy CWA.
Inside the Locker Room with former Crimson Tide basketball coach Wimp Sanderson and his son, former SEC and ACC assistant basketball coach Barry Sanderson. It's time to take you inside the locker room on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
And good morning. Welcome into a Tuesday edition of Inside the Locker Room. 205-342-9904 is the phone number if you'd like to jump in on the show with us this morning. Download the Tide 100.9 app to your smartphone. You can listen to us anywhere you go. You got baseball tonight, so you can catch that on the app if you're out and about. Alabama takes on UAB tonight. You also can send us a chat on the app. It'll email us anything you want to send there right up in the right-hand corner. So download the Tide 100.9 app to your smartphone. If you want to follow us on the X accounts at Locker Room 109 and at Wimp Sanderson 1 and at Barry Sanderson. It's that time of year again. The honeydew list is growing and the projects are adding up. The time is right to build that new fence deck pergola you've been dreaming about, and there's no better product than Yellowwood brand pressure-treated pine. Yellowwood offers best protection from rot, fungal decay, and termite attack, so you know your project will last for years to come. Head on down to your local dealer, and always remember, if it doesn't have that yellow tag on it, then believe me, you don't want it. Good morning, Dad. How are you this morning?
I'm here. That's about it. First of all, we have Ben Roberts on the second hour, who is a writer from Kentucky. Kentucky is having a mass exodus without really knowing the new coach who's going to be very good. I think that's what when I talked about, and Barry and them disagreed, it was terrible for basketball for that to happen. I'll stay that way. If I were coaching, I might be happy that they're losing all of them, so I won't have to play them once or twice. But since I'm just a radio guy, I think it hurts some to see. But anyway, I'm not going to go over all the ones that are leaving. He can do that for us. That's the reason I've got him on. I'll just go down quickly. Sam Walters' mother, I think, has been wanting him to come back at Alabama. And so he adds to a transfer, or is going on a transfer portal for Alabama. A big tackle in football at Tennessee is leaving Tennessee for whatever reason. Coaches and players are leaving by the truckload. So Scotty got $3,600,000. If you want to look at the money that was gotten, and Barry always likes that, you look down, it's unbelievable. It's the kind of money that was paid at Augusta by people that finished 46th, 30th. There's a lot of money. I'm not going to go through it. So that's big for them. The Braves won last night, I think it was. And my Cleveland Indians, Guardians, whatever you want to call them, they're the Indians to me. They beat the Red Sox 6-0. Auburn lost two of their guards, and they had a couple of guys graduate and lost two guards. They're getting a big kid, a guard, pardon me, not a big kid, very good guard from Furman who's committed to them. Cost them a lot of money, I understand. And Don Donaher, who none of you know, was a terrific basketball coach. I mean, I knew Don. I used to listen to what he had to say. He knew so much. Passed away yesterday, the day before. He was in his early 90s, but he was a heck of a coach. Caitlin Clark, a young lady who is a very, very, very active basketball player, good person, seems to be, was the number one pick in the WNBA. And I'm sure there are a lot of things that I've skipped whatever. So it's that's about it.
All right, today Kevin Skarbinski will join us at 7:30, and then that's Ben Roberts, and we'll talk to Ben about Kentucky and Cal leaving and Mark Pope coming in, and one of the craziest press conferences, not crazy, but just as far as attended, that I've ever seen. I don't like for people to be. I see when Sam Walters put his name in. I think our station may have put it on Facebook, and then people started criticizing the kid. First of all, you don't know. Maybe he was pushed to go to the portal. We don't know that. Sometimes those things happen. It seems like the freshmen that come in here don't stay very long.
I think in this particular case, what I can gather from what little is that his mother felt like he needed to be closer to home. Now that whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. Sometimes you do what your mother says. His average of playing time was just a tad over 12 minutes a game. And of course, they play a lot. They've been playing several people, and he's been shooting the ball good from the corners. But when you're just playing 12 minutes a game and you're that far from home, and you feel like you are really good, and he's not a bad player, I don't know if he'll go in the league or not, then you go home.
12 minutes a game as a true freshman, that's a lot of minutes. I mean, not many freshmen play 12 minutes a game. He shot 39% from three. I thought the kid played well. I think it's a loss.
I don't think he sees it that way. I think
it's a loss for him. I think he's a guy. He's a stretch forward that's been proven to be able to make threes this level. So now you got Parker, who's a freshman, gone. Rylan Griffin, you brought him in. It's his second year. He's gone. Cosby's gone, and now Walters is gone. Last year, Burnett left, and Jaden Bradley left. You had three guys that were freshmen that went pro, so you can't really help that. So right now you got Diabate and Stevenson, the only two freshmen that came in that are still on the roster. So was Alabama just Justin and Dad, we just want to turn into a transfer portal school now? You come in, and if you're not terrific, we move you on.
I think everybody's turned into one. I think money is the huge factor, and I just think that some people there feel like they don't have enough playing. They're just going to get more money. The other factor a little bit is you find that somebody else on your team is getting X amount of dollars, and you can understand why you're not getting that. And so your uncle tells you need to transfer because somebody else will give you that. This kid Mark Pope at Kentucky, we'll hear what Ben has to say, but they're leaving there like flies. If you want to know you want to know a team that's going to be the number one team in football and has a great basketball tradition right now, not tradition, but recruiting, transfer, Ohio State. If Ohio State played, let me put it this way, if they play to their potential, they'll probably win the national championship in football or have a great chance to. The two basketball guys from Kentucky, I think, have already committed to Ohio State to go there. I think Bradshaw may be one of them. So they're getting them. They're taking the money that they have or got or whatever, or adding to, because they got plenty of money. Got big time alums, and they're getting a lot of players.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know that I would be on social media criticizing Sam Walters because you don't know the reason as to why.
I agree.
He went in. Sometimes they force these guys in. I'm not saying they did. There's various reasons as to why. It's just it's a terrible system that we have. I'm actually sick of talking about it. But I guess Mark Sears is testing the draft. Grant Nelson's letting his agent do his talking. Yep. So I think I know they got these young kids coming in that everybody's high about, and they got the transfer from South Florida who they say is really good, really strong guard. So I guess they feel like they've replaced Griffith by him. So we'll see if Sears and Nelson come back. The day is the day the transfer portal opens up for football. I don't know if there'll be a lot of names announced today. Sometimes it takes maybe 24 hours to get these guys in. I don't know. Maybe they turned their names in yesterday. Some people, one guy's reporting that the backup quarter, I guess he's the backup quarterback for Alabama, is coming back. He's not going to leave. Ty Simpson, that is. So we'll see if that holds true. Do you expect?
Ooh, that'd be bad.
No, that he's coming back, not leaving. That he's coming back. and we'll see if that holds true. Do you anticipate a mass exodus from football? And I don't think guys that they really, really want, but clearing some room for some better players.
Get exodus, but the problem that you have is we don't know whether it's good or bad for the team. The writers trying to find something, or especially one of them, trying to find some reason that your team is going to be bad. They'll decide whether the guy's good or bad. But the coaches will know, as most of you know, he has a guy right beside him, a coach does at Alabama, who is handling everything transfer-wise, knows what's going on everywhere, and they're on top of things with this young man. They report to him about what they need to get. So they got to get more money if they get in the situation where somebody is outbidding them. It's just ridiculous. So I don't know.
Yeah, at some point, the fans going to get turned off by all this and stop buying the tickets and just do something else. I know people say, well, we'll keep watching it, but I don't know.
I agree.
At some point, I say, well, I'm not going to buy it. I may go watch a few games, but I'm not buying tickets anymore.
I think Kalen DeBoer has done about as good a job as you can do without having played a game. You're always looking to find something about personality-wise about the new coach's attitude, his personality, what he did and didn't do and did do. And so that's not perfect. Nobody's perfect. And as we've talked about, Barry and I, opinions, there's a zillion opinions. So I think he's done a good job as far as, I know it hadn't played. I know all this, and I made them say that's not right. But I think up until this point in time, he's done a decent job of keeping things together as best he could.
Yeah, I think he's done an incredible job. I think he's done probably better than anybody. And I heard somebody yesterday, and I will get to break. They talked about when Coach Perkins came in.
I was there.
Well, they said, and I didn't think about it this way, like Coach Saban is helping with the transition. And I think you said it yesterday, he always does the right thing, says the right thing, shows up at the right time, is a presence there, but he's not, he's not there too much. With Coach Bryant passing away, he wasn't there to kind of protect Ray Perkins and trying to help him through the process. So once he passed away, Perkins was kind of on his own and didn't have Coach Bryant there maybe to back up some of the things that he was doing and to tell the fans to give him a chance. Do you think that hurt Ray Perkins? When
well, maybe a little bit. It was my way or the highway.
Yeah.
And the way he handled the keeping or letting people go was not real professional. He's a good man. I liked him a lot. Most people didn't, but I did. He just didn't handle it. He was quite even. He was mad at the bus drivers who drove the bus to the games. That just stuff happens all. It's just my way of the highway, and some like him and some didn't. And it got to be. He was a relentless recruiter. And when Ray Perkins was at Alabama and Pat Dye was at Auburn, they went after each other, and they went after recruiting like you've never said. There was just never a minute to stay back and rest. Ray Perkins was a wiggly boy. He didn't spend any time at home. He worked, and Pat Dye worked right in behind him, and so they were really relentless recruiting.
Yeah, I just curious as if Coach maybe Coach Bryant could have headed off some of the problems maybe that he had.
He might,
yeah, where not that Coach Saban is heading off any problems. I don't think Coach DeBoer's gotten himself in any problems.
I will say this on top of this, not quite what Barry's talking about. I called Gene Stallings. He's going to be on tomorrow, just because of of the death and all. And I asked Gene. I said, "Were you the one who said, what you said in the meeting and got the quarterback situation straightened out?" He said, "Yes." So I want you. I don't want to take away from today, but tomorrow at 7:30. We're going to have Gene Stallings.
All right, good. All right, we'll take the break here. We'll get back. We'll open up the phone lines. We got Philip Holden. We got other lines open if you guys want to jump in. Kevin Skarbinski will join us at the bottom of the hour. 2 Minute Truck out at 1330 Martin Road East. That's where you go pick up your boxes, your packing supplies, whatever you need in preparation for this move. It's local, out of town, out of state. It's going to be stressful, so let the professionals handle it. You just stay out of the way. They'll take great care of you and your stuff. Give them a call today for the free estimates. 205-247-5050. It's 2 Minute Truck movers who care.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. It looks like the little run we had on accidents earlier this morning is over, at least for now. Nothing big blocking any lanes on any of the major roadways. And our drive times are pretty normal, 10 minutes along McFarland from Airport across the river down to Jack Warner Parkway. And if you're traveling eastbound 2059 from the 359 interchange to Skyland Boulevard, expect an 8-minute drive there. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Ray Romero.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Tuesday morning. Polls have been opened in Walker County now for about an hour for the lone primary runoff election in West Alabama today. Former State Senator Charles Bishop and former Miller Roofing Company owner Steve Miller are vying for the Republican Walker County Commission chair nomination. Polls will be open
to you by Fincher and Osmond. Fincher and Osmond carries artisan-created diamonds. And trust us, they are bigger than you expect. Visit www.fincherandosmond.com.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The weather stays warm and dry today, partly sunny with a high at 83. Tonight, increasingly cloudy, the low 63. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy, a chance of widely scattered showers, the high 79. Thursday, a mix of sun and clouds, the high 87. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 64 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Follow the Crimson Tide on their journey to another national championship. Touchdown, Alabama! On your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Yellowwood pressure treated pine from Great Southern Wood. If it doesn't have the yellow tag on it, then believe me, you don't want it. Yellowwood Hotline. Good morning, Philip.
Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. Hey, Coach, when I heard you talking about Coach Stallings being on tomorrow, I think back to a time, I think it was right during the end of his tenure at Alabama.
Right.
He was on TV getting interviewed by Roy Firestone. Do you remember Roy Firestone?
I do remember Roy Firestone. I sure do.
Yeah. Well, this was right towards the end of his tenure at Alabama, and he was being interviewed by Roy Firestone, and he was also seated with Chris Webber, the basketball player.
Okay.
And they were having a general conversation about back then about paying players and paying college players and all that long ago. Yeah. And the conversation got so heated between Stallings and Webber. I thought they were going to attack each other. And I'm not being facetious.
I know Gene better than anybody. Gene's got a real very, very opinionated, and he is also ready to give you his opinion. And then he gets a little bit like.
Yeah, well, he's not going to be messed with. And but Chris Webber got more and more demure and more kittenish as that interview went on. He backed down off Stallings. And I think he thought he was going to push him around. He backed down. But one thing I want to say about college basketball is now the travel ball mentality is in full force with college basketball coaches, and they know probably halfway through the year who they can afford to lose. Not that they want to, but who they can afford to lose. But the trick is, who can they keep from losing?
Well, what happens to you is that once they get a kid in, if he plays a lot better than they ever realized, and they were trying to see, they figured out they got to figure up their money to keep him. If there's a guy that comes in and he thought, I thought this guy was really going to be good, he don't even want to be here, then you just slide with it, and it has to be you got to be right on top of things now, because you'll take, you'll get players and let players go. It ain't easy.
Not at all.
Thank you, Philip.
All right, Philip.
Appreciate you guys taking my call.
Thank you, man.
Okay.
All right, back up to the Yellowwood Hotline. Get Cowboy in. Good morning, Cowboy.
How you doing, Coach and Barry?
Hey.
Good, buddy.
That Masters is pretty good. I guess I'm calling from the home of the Masters champion. He played some good golf. I thought we were going to have a tournament there after 8 or whatever that hole was when he bogeyed, but boy, he got it right back and it was over, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know that it was over. They cut it to 2. Kip from overseas, AR, he cut it to 2, and he's a heck of a player. And he had, in his mind, he had no pressure on him. I know he knew it was a Masters, but he played without fear. I put it that way.
Yeah. Hey, I got 2 things here. That was sad to see Vern Lundquist's last call in the Masters. Man, he's had some classic calls at the Masters. First time I ever saw Vern Lundquist, I remember calling a football game, was him and Steve Davis were calling a Troy game. It was in the early 80s. It was Troy and somebody from Troy, Alabama, down there, Vern Lundquist. But one night out here in Dallas, I went to the Symphony Orchestra, and I sat right next to Vern Lundquist. And, man, that guy was some kind of symphony fan, man. He was hollering, bravo, bravo, all night. I
think he called some Alabama games.
Yeah.
And I think, from what I can recall, I don't want to say this wrong, he got criticized about as much as the guys that have been doing it. And while you're on that subject, I'm very anxious to hear the tongues warm up when the new announcers come on for football this coming year and for the Alabama. Not the local, not.
Yeah. All SEC games.
Fox, Barry. I didn't say it right. The Fox announcers. You ain't gonna like the Fox announcers.
But I thought all the SEC games will be all ESPN.
Yeah. Some of those Fox guys, they don't bother me, but some people, whatever.
I bet you $50 to the donut they do bother you before it's over.
But what games are going to be on Fox?
I think all of them aren't.
No, they're all SEC games are on ESPN. ESPN has all SEC.
So who'll be calling those games?
I mean,
you got Sean McDonough, Greg McElroy. You got Chris Fowler, Kurt Herbstreit.
Yeah.
You're going to have Joe Wischusen and RG3.
I'm sure Tom Hart. Yeah. All ESPN guys.
Okay.
Yeah. ABC, yes. Hey, one last thing, and then I'll let you guys go. Coach, who do you think, these are my 2 favorite Coach Stallings head coaches, some of his better players. Who do you think was the toughest of these 2? I know it's probably who you'll say, but they were 2 tough and great coaches. You were with that early at Alabama with them. Howard Schnellenberger and Gene Stallings. Boy, those are 2 great ones.
Yeah, they really were. Pat Dye said one time when he was at Alabama 8 years while I was there. In fact, Annette sold him his house. That on the field coaching, teaching guys how to play, that Howard Schnellenberger was the best on the field. I'm not comparing him to Stallings. I'm just telling you what he said about Howard. He said Howard was the best on the field coach of getting things over to these guys of anybody. I used to play canaster with Howard in Beverly. We did. And he's a great football coach. He's from Kentucky, good basketball player. And, of course, Gene came in there about the same year that I did. And when he finally made enough money to go out of a rental house into a real house, we moved into his house. And knowing him
is Howard Schnellenberger, is he still alive?
No, Howard passed away.
No, he passed away a couple of years ago.
Beverly's still living.
Yeah.
And Howard was a great coach and a great person. And they would go upstairs in the little gym and play and basketball at lunch. And what's his name at Kentucky? The line guy who used to be the head coach at Kentucky. I'm sorry, I can't think. They get into whose ball it was out of bounds, was his ball and other teams' ball. They had some really great games up there. So I tell you what, and I'll get out of here off this. I was fortunate enough in the years I was there to see a lot of guys who became head coaches at universities. Charlie Bradshaw, nobody remembers on this show. People like that.
just a lot.
He was
of
the Troy head coach in Kentucky, wasn't
he? Yeah. So I was fortunate to see that. I appreciate your call, Cowboy.
Thank you, Cowboy.
Yeah. Be good, Coach.
All right, thanks. Thank you, Cowboy. All right, let's talk about Bob Prince and Prince, Glover, and Hayes before we get to break.
Well, I tell you this all the time, but I think it's important that you understand. If you have a problem that really messes you up physically and mentally, and you don't know where to go, you have an accident, so-called accident, you get injured, somebody comes after you in the neighborhood, you have, you say, well, that never happened. Everything happens. Something happens to you on the highways, where it might be. Prince, Glover, and Hayes at 345-1234 will be the people to visit with. I think that they'll carry it further with you if you feel like that you need to, and then they will go out and represent you in the right way. Prince, Glover, and Hayes, located in Tuscaloosa, but all over the Southeast. 345-1234.
PrinceLaw.net is the website. If they don't win, you don't pay. Kevin Skarbinski's next. Listen. Tide of 100.9 and 12.
A money back guarantee.
Text support to 511-511. Morning Kick. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Tax fees may apply.
Two-time state champion and two-time NIT champion Barry Sanderson breaks down the latest in sports on Inside the Locker Room on Tide 100.9.
Going to build the 5-star backyard, the fence, the deck, the pergola, whatever you need. You want to use Yellowwood, pressure-treated pine from Great Southern Wood. Go to yellowwood.com to find a dealer that is closest to you. I get right to the Yellowwood hotline. He writes for the AL.com and the Lead, puts out did a lot of great stuff for basketball, and the state teams gave him a lot of stuff to write about. We always enjoy having Kevin on. Kevin Skarbinski. Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
Hey, Kevin.
I'm good, fellas. Good morning.
I don't really like to ask somebody a question when you don't tell them in advance that you're going to ask this, and it's not anybody's supposed to know. Besides Milroe, where does Alabama stand with quarterbacks? The good quarterback I thought that played with them, practiced with them in the bowl game and went to Ohio State. I thought that was a bad loss, but they also got somebody from Washington that was coming there. I mean, you may not have kept up with it that close, but outside of Milroe, where do they kind of stand right now with their quarterbacks?
Yeah, I am just kind of getting back up to speed with other sports beyond basketball after the last month. But I just read something. I think it was Ryan Fowler from your station reported that Ty Simpson is not going to enter the transfer portal, that he is going to come back, and he has looked good from reports that I've read in spring practice. Did some good things in the spring game. So if you have him back, you've got to have, especially today with injuries, you have to have a guy. You have to have a competent backup and a guy who can step in.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think he may be better than a lot of people realize. Because the problem is everyone remembers that South Florida game last year, how it looked when Jalen Milroe wasn't there. And Jalen Milroe at that point was not what Jalen Milroe would become. He improved tremendously as the season went on. Right. And, by things I'm hearing and reading, he's made more progress this spring working under Kalen DeBoer. So, if Ty Simpson does stay on the team, and he is there for the fall. And I don't know really the situation in any detail beyond those guys. I know who's there, but if you have those two guys, you're in pretty. You got to feel like you're in pretty good shape going into the season.
Yeah, that's what I want. I thought that's right.
Kevin, Dad and I talked about this yesterday. When Coach Saban retired, and then you fast forward all the way to now, we wondered, will he be around? He gets an office up in the stadium. Will he be at the games? Well, he's at the 8A game. He speaks to the team prior to the game, and then he's on the field prior, and they interview him. But it just seems like whenever you put a microphone in him, or whenever you think, hey, this is a difficult situation, he says the right things, does the right things. He's around just enough, but not too much. Coach DeBoer seems to really enjoy him being there. He's kind of more laid back. It seems like this has been about as good a transition as you can ever imagine. The coach is there, but he's not there. He's supportive. He's around. I didn't think he'd go to the A-Day game. I was shocked to see him, and I'm glad he did. Just talk about so far. I know they haven't played a game, but the transition from Coach Saban to DeBoer and everything that's kind of happened in between to this date.
I think you hit on it. The key part of this is that Kalen DeBoer, not only does he not seem to mind that Nick Saban has been around the times he's been around, but he seems, it's almost as if, because he's not he's not a guy who needs the spotlight on him constantly.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Nick Saban did. They just naturally followed Nick Saban because of his accomplishments over time. But Kalen DeBoer obviously is a more low-key individual in terms of his own personality. And it seems as if he enjoys the fact that the spotlight is not on him 24/7, that it does divert to Nick Saban at times. And as you said, and it's not really a surprise that Nick Saban would handle it well, that he would know what to say, when to say it for the most part. That's kind of who he is at this point in his life and career. The really interesting thing to me, though, and it's much easier to have that very positive relationship right now. When we get into the season and Nick Saban is on game day every week, what happens if, Alabama just plays very poorly and loses to Georgia, for example, or loses a game that no one would expect them to lose? And the next week, obviously, on game day, that subject's going to come up, and they're going to ask Nick Saban his opinion. I cannot see Nick Saban being critical of Kalen DeBoer on national television or in public with anyone. I just can't see it. And let's be honest, Nick Saban has not really been – he's not one of these guys – he's not Lane Kiffin, for example, taking shots at other coaches, direct or indirect. He's usually built up other coaches. He's not been one to be critical of other coaches. So I'm very curious to see how he handles situations where coaches might deserve criticism when he's on the game day set.
Yep, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. Barrett talked about it, and I think it was a good answer. I think he's at the right place at the right time, and he knows how to handle himself. That's really, sort of what you said. I hate to switch over, but I'm going to. I said, and I'll stick by what I said, that the Kentucky situation going to Arkansas was bad for college basketball in the SEC. Most people disagreed with me, but I think they made a very good choice at Kentucky. I think Mark Polk will do a good job, but he's going to lose a lot of players the first year, and he's not going to be able to recruit the guys they had recruited. We're having a Kentucky guy on later on today, so it's going to be very difficult for that program. Now the other coaches are like that because they're going to beat them, and then Arkansas is getting the big kid already. He's already committed from Kentucky there, and they'll be not as good as you think because they'll be okay. But I don't know what you may have a total different idea about the transfer portal with that situation than me. But so I'm asking, what was your feeling about that?
Well, I think it's pretty clear that it was overdue for John Calipari to move on.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was clearly a toxic relationship there with him and Mitch Barnhart, the athletic director, with some key boosters, apparently, from the reporting that I've read from insiders at Kentucky. And so after 15 years, and when the first 5 years of your tenure are far better than in the last 5 years, that's a combination for moving on. It's a little surprising, yes, that he went to Arkansas. So that's going to just continue to bring up the Kentucky stuff because he's still in the SEC. You know, as far as Mark, unless John Calipari changes his approach, and it's not a good sign. Wasn't it reported he's taking his entire staff with him?
I don't know.
All of his assistant coaches. I think I saw that somewhere. That's not a good sign of a guy who realizes that he has to change his approach somewhat because it wasn't working. The last 5 years, yeah, they were still bringing in all of these NBA players or future NBA players, but it just wasn't working. I mean, they'd fall into, let's be honest, Alabama, Auburn, and Tennessee have all been better programs and more productive and winning programs than Kentucky over the last 5 years. That's a fact. That's not an opinion. So why would Arkansas think that he's going to be different and better there than he was the last 5 years in Lexington? So I think there's an issue there. Now, as far as Mark Pope's concerned, you know, he's very popular there as a former player. I think part of what you saw Sunday with that sellout crowd, not sellout, they didn't sell tickets, I don't believe, but the full house in Rupp Arena to welcome him home was not just because they loved Mark Pope and they want to embrace the new coach after getting basically the cold shoulder from some other folks. They wanted to show people they're still Kentucky. At least the fans did. And look, nobody's ever questioned the passion for Kentucky basketball. That's never changed. That's always been special. So is Mark Pope the guy to get them back to where they expect to be? I mean, he walks off the bus in Rupp Arena waving that 1996 national championship trophy. Well, that's your expectation, you know, big guy. That's if you don't get back there, you don't add another one of those pretty, you know, in 3 or 4 years maybe. They're not going to be so fond of you. And I'll tell you guys, I looked at his record at BYU and at Utah Valley. Here's something that's a little concerning to me. I mean, this is apples to apples, all right? 6 of the 7 coaches before him at BYU, 6 of 7, going back to 1950, all either won a conference championship. They all made 6 of those 7 made more NCAA tournaments than he did. He went to 2 in his 5 years at BYU. 6 of the 7 before him went to more tournaments, not just raw numbers, but percentage. And 5 of those 6 won games there. He's never won an NCAA tournament game. So the guys that preceded him did a better job than him. He didn't make the program better. Dave Rose did a really good job over a long period of time. The guy who retired, that opened up the job that Mark Pope got 5 years ago. And then go back to Utah Valley, where he never got them to the NCAA tournament, never won a conference championship there. And he was there 4 years. Mark Madsen, who followed him, was there for 4 years before moving on to another job. Mark Madsen won 2 conference championships. So I'm a little, you know, I'm a little taken aback by this notion that he's going to be an upgrade for Kentucky when the guy who followed him at Utah Valley was more productive, and pretty much everybody that preceded him at BYU was more productive.
Yeah. Well, he's a Kentucky person. I think that part of I think he's a really good person, from what I can gather. And he has a lot of Kentucky blood, and the line could not have been very long for people to get anyway. We're living in an era of time that the line is not very long for successful head coaches that you want, and you're not going to go to an assistant coach because you're really scared there. So I think they I won't say they ran out. But I think they liked him a great deal to start with, and it just happened to evolve that way.
Well, let me say this one. Nothing I said is a personal reflection on Mark Pope as a person. I don't know him as a person. I remember him as a player. I covered that Final Four when they won it in '96. I was around that Kentucky team, you know, at the SEC tournament in the regular season to some degree. I didn't know him personally. Don't know him personally. Never had a one-on-one interview with him. And everything I read says, you know, there are a lot of people that really embrace him and think he's not only a good coach but a good person. And I'm not saying he's a bad coach.
Yeah.
I'm trying to compare apples to apples in his, you know, at the jobs he had. And now he's at the most, and I don't think this is a debate, the most pressure-packed college basketball head coaching job in America. Yeah. And all those people who are, you know, dressing up like the Pope, holding up Hope with Pope signs, on Sunday at Rupp Arena. Let him finish 4th or 5th or 6th in the SEC for 3 or 4 years in a row. Let him not win NCAA tournament games or not get past the first weekend, which is really kind of the minimum yearly requirement for Kentucky, and they haven't done that in the last 5 years. Let him not get to a Final Four in the next 4 years, and then see how those people feel about him then.
Yeah, but I think Mitch Barnhart fell into the right decision. Even if Nate Oates or the guy from Baylor or Hurley went there, you would not have had the excitement that happened. And I don't know if somebody got to Rick Pitino. I think Rick Pitino genuinely loves Mark Pope, and that video he put out really helped Mark Pope. I think it changed a lot of people's minds, and he has energized this Kentucky fan base. And I think the NIL will pour in. I think he's the exact opposite of John Calipari. Maybe Kalen DeBoer is the exact opposite of Coach Saban. When you bring in the exact opposite, they're hungry for that. I think the guy's got a chance to do it. I think he understands Kentucky. I think that press. Have you ever seen anything like that? I think they thought there was going to be 10,000 people there, and they just kept pouring in there.
No, they didn't expect that. They were overwhelmed with the show of support. And again, I think a part of that was, Kentucky has heard pundits and analysts and members of other fan bases just pile on over the last couple of weeks saying, look, Danny Hurley would rather be at UConn. Nate Oates would rather be at Alabama. Scott Drew would rather be at Baylor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You're not getting the best coaches in the country, don't want that job. And I think the fan base, I think really part of it was a backlash on just all the negativity they'd heard, and so Kentucky basketball fans were going to show everyone we're Kentucky and you're not. And in that respect, they're right. I don't think there's another fan base in America, not North Carolina, not Kansas, not Duke, not UCLA back in its heyday, that would have 23,000 or 25,000 or however, and there were thousands of people reportedly outside the building that couldn't get in. You wouldn't see that at any other school in America for the introduction of a basketball coach.
He talked about winning the SEC championship. He talked about when we sit around, we don't talk about our NBA teams. We talk about the college teams we played for. Everything was a direct shot at John Calipari. And I don't know if he came up with that or if it's something that he and Mitch Barnhart talked about, but I think it was everything that the Kentucky fan was sick about John Calipari about he hit in the press conference, Kevin.
Yeah, and I think from that aspect of it, that's what they needed. They needed somebody who was the anti-Calipari, somebody who was not about him, who did not appear to be about himself. And look, John Calipari did so many wonderful things for the state of Kentucky behind the scenes. I mean, I personally saw his support for the Mike Slive Foundation for Prostate Cancer Research here a couple years ago. I know what Mike Slive meant to him, for example, and the things he's done there. So, but again, just from a personality standpoint, Calipari stepped in it, his first year when, they won the SEC, they won the regular season, they won the tournament, they had DeMarcus Cousins, they had Eric Bledsoe, they had John Wall, they had Patrick Peterson?
Patterson.
They had all these great, Patterson, thank you. They had all these great players. They roll through the SEC and they get beaten in the Elite Eight by West Virginia. But then 3 months later, they've got 5 guys taken in the first round of the NBA draft, which had never happened before. And Calipari calls it the greatest day in Kentucky basketball history. And the Kentucky basketball fans did not like that, and neither did former players. So, he made it pretty clear what he was about. Not that he didn't work hard for Kentucky, not that he didn't want to win at Kentucky, but, he had a different view of the world. And Kentucky wants it to be all about Kentucky, and Mark Pope is going to be all about Kentucky. For better or worse, there's no doubt about that.
Is Alabama turning into we're going to build our roster on the portal? They bring in freshmen, Kevin, and, last year, of course, they can't help. 3 of them went pro, but Burnett leaves, Jaden Bradley leaves. This year, Parker's gone, Griffin's gone, Cosby's gone. and now Walters is gone. So the only two freshmen that they signed, they're still here, Diabate and Stevenson. So they're going to go to the portal and try to replace those guys. Is Alabama just now kind of becoming the transfer, like a lot of other schools? They're just going to fill it in the transfer portal. And if a guy comes in a freshman and he's not, like Stevenson has unbelievable potential, so they'll hold on to him. But these other guys, I don't know if they're pushing them out, they're leaving on their own. Something's happened. This roster, it seems to be turning over a lot each and every year.
See, that's the question that you really got to get to the bottom of, and I don't know the answer to it. In each individual case, did those guys decide that they just wanted to be elsewhere? Did they have a conversation with Nate Oates about their role on the team next year? Did they not like what they heard? That's and look, that's the way it should work. You meet with the coach. He lays out his plan for you, his expectations for you, what he thinks your role is going to be next year. And if you're not happy with that, well, then you have the opportunity to put your name in the portal. And let's also remember you have the opportunity to take your name out of the portal. We'll see if each of those guys, is indeed gone. Sam Walters, I wonder about, but I don't know for sure if he's fully committed on leaving, regardless. So, but that's the way the game is now. If you don't have the ability to build a roster leaning heavily on the transfer portal or supplementing your roster heavily through the transfer portal, I don't think you can be as successful. Look, UConn did it. UConn would, after what they lost last year, they wouldn't have been the same if they hadn't brought in that guy from, was it Rutgers? The two guard who seemed to be everywhere. He was on the floor. He's hitting threes. That guy, he's the perfect example. And they had one or two other guys from the transfer portal that were that played key roles for him. You got to do it. You better be good at it. If you don't like it, you're not going to be as successful as you could be otherwise. So the real key is, what's the atmosphere behind the scenes? And look, this Alabama team, they seem to like each other. I don't think there's, we didn't hear, there were some issues with Nick Pringle at times throughout the year, but for the most part, they seem to have good chemistry. They seem to share the ball. They seem to enjoy each other's success. So I don't know that it's an indication of anything amiss in the locker room. I think it's all about guys, whether they like or don't like the roles they believe are going to be fashioned for them next season.
Yeah. Anything else for Kevin before we let him go?
That's fine. Thank you. I appreciate had to switch it around back and forth.
Kevin,
that kind of year.
Kevin, you'll appreciate this. We have an app, and guys can send us messages on the app. And some Josh from Northport just says, Coach's best interview of the week consistently Tuesday mornings at 7:30. So that would be when you're on. So there are people.
Wow. Well, thank you, Josh. I appreciate that.
People are enjoying your segment. We just
nice to hear kind words in the social media world where you usually hear only the opposite.
I think
we're having Gene Stallings on tomorrow. We'll see.
I think it's because Dad and I ask such good questions, Kevin. That's what it is.
I think that's what it is. Especially Wimp.
Tell everybody where they can find you.
Yes, you follow me on Twitter /X at Kevin Skarbinski. That's the best way to keep up with everything I'm doing. My twice-a-week columns in the Birmingham Lead. You can go to birminghamlead.com to subscribe to that publication. I write a piece every Monday, every Thursday, so I hope people will check it out.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, guys. Have a great week.
All right, there's Kevin. I do enjoy speaking with him each and every Tuesday. You listen to Tide 100.9. It's the home of Alabama sports.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. We are looking at the road work that has rolled out on eastbound I-10. As you approach Joe Malisham, the right lane is blocked. Left lane is all that's passable. There's nothing unusual about that. It is a daily project, and it's not causing a whole lot of backup there. A drive on both.
Right now, get $1,000 off select laundry appliances with Spring Black Friday savings in-store and online at the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The weather stays warm and dry today, partly sunny with a high at 83. Tonight, increasingly cloudy, the low 63. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy, a chance of widely scattered showers, the high 79. Thursday,
wow, it worked, guys.
Yeah. Downy Rinse and Refresh removes more odor in one wash than the leading value detergent in 3 washes. Find it wherever you buy laundry products.
It's the Tide 100.9 30K Workday Payday. Woo! Win cash every weekday 8 to 5. Here's this hour's cash code.
621. Again, that's 621. The code is 621.
Enter that code now on the Tide 100.9 app. Click on the 30K payday button and enter the code for a chance to win $30,000.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Eddie Garcia.
The NBA postseason gets underway tonight with a couple of play-in games out west. Pelicans take on the Lakers in a 7-8 matchup. The winner will earn the 7th seed and face the West number 2 seed Denver, the defending NBA champs, in the first round. The loser will then await the winner of the second play-in game tonight. That's the Kings against the Warriors, the 9-10 matchup. And then the winner of that game will be the 8th seed in the West and face the number 1 seed Oklahoma City. By the way, the Lakers are listing star Anthony Davis as questionable for tonight's game with back spasms. WNBA draft, as expected, Iowa star Caitlin Clark did go number 1 overall to the Indiana Fever. NHL games of note, Rangers shut out the Senators 4-0. Rangers clinched the President's Trophy for the best regular season record. Islanders clinch a
provided to all participants. Volunteers should check in at the Rock Quarry Boat Landing on Lake Tuscaloosa. Learn more at Tuscaloosa.com/loveourlakes.
Inside the Locker Room with former Crimson Tide basketball coach Wimp Sanderson and his son, former SEC and ACC assistant basketball coach Barry Sanderson. It's time to take you inside the locker room on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back to the second hour of Inside the Locker Room. I want to thank Yellowwood, who brought you the 7 o'clock hour. We appreciate those guys so much as we transition into the 8 o'clock hour. We want to thank Andrew Conifer. He's my Allstate insurance agent. Let Andrew become yours. He's out at 4705 McFarland Boulevard, Suite 3 over in Northport. You want to have an insurance agent that knows your area inside and out. When you have a situation, you need to know where to go to get something fixed, so Andrew can help you with that. If you're looking for Home Life Auto, give them a call today for the free estimate, 205-722-9201. Andrew Conifer, Allstate Insurance. I'm so confused with this NBA. Tonight, I do understand now they have a play-in game. So, Dad, the 7 seed is New Orleans, and they take on the 8 seed, the Lakers. And then the winner of this game will be the 7 seed. Also tonight, Sacramento takes on Golden State. So the winner of that would have to play the loser. Is that right, Justin? The loser of the New Orleans and the Los Angeles game. And then the winner of that makes the playoff. The loser would be out. So I'm sitting there. If I win, I got to play the Nuggets in the first round. If I win tonight, when the Nuggets, because they're the 2 seed there. So I'm trying to have more teams involved. I know I probably confused you, but
I guarantee you did.
So anyway, that's they keep all 10 teams involved. So they keep 7 through 10, but they're not guaranteed to be in the actual playoffs. Anyway, it's starts tonight, and I'm anxious to watch the Pelicans take on the Lakers just because I like Herb Jones. I want to watch Herb Jones play. He'll probably guard LeBron tonight, so that should be fun. Yes, Justin.
Well, I saw yesterday night and maybe this morning when I was driving in, potentially they were saying the Lakers should try to lose this game. I mean, if they win, they go to face the Nuggets as the 7th seed.
Yeah, but if they lose,
they still have one more to play.
Yeah, one more play. I guess they'd get a home game against the winner of the Warriors and the Sacramento Kings, and then if they lost that game, they wouldn't make the playoffs. So
the winner of the second game would play OKC.
Say that again. Yeah.
Go,
okay, so that's amazing to me. The Oklahoma City, that little small city there, they won the Western Conference. So good for those guys. All right, get to the Andrew Conifer hotline. Get Tom into the show. Good morning, Tom.
Tom. Good morning, Barry. Good morning, Coach. How are y'all this morning?
We're good, man.
Did Barry and I do a good job with Joe as far as Doug as far as asking that question?
Oh yeah, it was on the money, Coach, and I thought Doug answered it what I was thinking, and of course I can't say it like he does, but yeah, good job. I thought the interview and conversation with Doug's good, always good in my book.
I got something yesterday, and I don't know if it's true. It's from Flushing It, which is a golf thing. It said City AM, London's most read financial papers reporting Rory McIlroy could be close to joining LIV Golf for $850 million plus an ownership stake in the league. This report comes on the back of a strong rumors among media members at the Masters. $850 million for Rory McIlroy to switch over to LIV.
Talk me into it.
Well,
you got a comment on that, Tom?
Yeah, I read something to the same effect, and it was during Masters Week. You're right, the report I read, but here's what they're saying. This is the strategy for him to leave the PGA and go to the LIV. Guess what? They think that he needs to write a tell-all book on the PGA for him to be able to make the getaway from the PGA to LIV. So just add another $30 million to that $850 for that book.
Well, I'll tell you what I would do if I were him. I would get all of my money up front.
Yeah,
I'd get it all up front. I wouldn't. If they want me, I wouldn't speculate as what's going to happen in the year. I might make more. I might make
no payment.
Get my money up front.
No payment. Give me my money.
They say this fund is worth like $1 trillion. So I know 800 million sound, and that's good gosh. But to these people, they're just trying to screw around with you now. They know their leagues.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody's watching it. Nobody really cares. They just want to. And for Greg Norman to go buy a ticket to show up at the Masters, they're just trying to stick it to you now, to be quite honest.
They sure are. And that's been his. See, everybody, hey, you shouldn't say that about Greg Norman. You know, that's been his whole thing since 1986.
I do want to add in.
When he could not win the Masters, when he couldn't win the Masters, he got a vendetta against American golf. You write that down.
Yeah. Justin, what you got?
Flushing It, where you saw that initial report from, they're pretty good, I think, relatively. About 10 minutes ago, they did post where Rory McIlroy's agent says the reports of him joining LIV for $850 million is, in quotes, fake news and zero truth.
Okay. That means he's going to
take 800.
That means he's going to get 900.
900.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Hey, I want to talk about Kentucky.
Yeah.
I thought your comments with Kevin, all three, were interesting about Kentucky, and but I found this to be interesting, and I agree with it. Kevin said that he doesn't see Calipari doing any changing at Arkansas, and he thinks that will continue to be the demise of the problems that Calipari is having in coaching college basketball. And I agree with that, because let me point this out, and I want y'all to bring this up with Ben, if you don't mind, if you think it's legit, okay? Mm-hmm. I'm going to say it. And if you think it's legit, I want you to tell me, and then I want you to ask Ben about it. When I turn on the NBA playoff, I'm always astounded by how many players are from Kentucky in the playoffs.
Good
not
players,
the league.
like really good players too.
Not the league, not the league. I'm talking about the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I'm astounded, and I'm always astounded by how freaking good they are. Mm-hmm. And I go, what the heck was he doing at Kentucky? What was he doing for 15 years? He should have 2 or maybe 3. And I don't believe they are easy to come by any stretch of the imagination. But in my mind, I'm thinking he should have had 2, maybe 3 additional national championships. And I would like for somebody to bring that up about Calipari and what he did, how he squandered, in my opinion, all that talent.
I think the Kentucky people felt like he was more worried about getting those guys in there and doing right by the kid and getting him to the NBA than worried about the University of Kentucky. Now,
that's interesting.
Yeah. And so it finally gets like, we're Kentucky. We're not as worried about the NBA. That's all you heard about. We're going to do what's right by the kid. Now, I think guys are going to keep recruiting these McDonald's All-Americans, these one-and-dones. They're not going to stop recruiting them. But I think that was his sole emphasis, and it started to wear on. When you don't win, then it starts to wear on you as a Kentucky fan. So, and I think that's what was happening because they weren't winning in the NCAA.
Do you think that would be interesting to get Ben's take on that angle?
Yeah, sure. I mean, a lot of people said that.
I do too. I do too, because he's an inside guy. He knows some stuff, and he's well aware of the history for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. We'll ask him.
Thank you.
Thank you. All
hey,
right. Tom.
Yes, sir.
We're having your favorite. We're having your favorite person on tomorrow.
I heard that, and I'm so glad that you got him coming on to talk about Coach Sloan and his situation with Coach Stallings. That is going to be fascinating. I can't wait.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
See y'all.
All right. Tuscaloosa Toyota. Go to TuscaloosaToyota.com. On the website, you can schedule a service. You can rent a Toyota. You can order a part. You can buy 3 tires. You get that 4th tire for $1. You got that special going on now. You also can look at all the new inventory, the used inventory that they have on the lot. Or swing by Skyland Boulevard, see Justin, see David. They talk about all the cars that they're selling over there. It's because they're not in love with any of them. They'll take great care of you out there. So swing by, look at the Grand Highlanders, the Toyota Tacomas, the RAVs, the Camrys. They got something for everybody out at Tuscaloosa Toyota. Go to TuscaloosaToyota.com. And it's a Tide 100.9. It's the home of Alabama sports.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. If you're traveling along southbound 69, approaching the McFarland interchange, we do have some backup there. A couple blocks you'll have to contend with. Now, further south on Lurling Wallace, delays at the Hugh Thomas Bridge down to University, but moving better when you get past that. And
or text DEAL to 511-511. Text DEAL to 511-511. All dogs are unique. Your dog's results can and will vary. Message and data rates may apply.
Road tripping, business travel, or bringing your car in for repairs. All great reasons to rent a Toyota at Tuscaloosa Toyota. You can rent the latest Toyota models for a day, a week, or a weekend. Every Toyota rental car comes with 24 hours roadside assistance and is backed by an entire team of people you know and trust. Rent a Toyota and let's go places. Reserving yours is a breeze at TuscaloosaToyota.com.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The weather stays warm and dry today, partly sunny with a high at 83. Tonight, increasingly cloudy, the low 63. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy, a chance of widely scattered showers, the high 79. Thursday, a mix of sun and clouds, the high 87. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 66 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Mr. SEC Tournament Wimp Sanderson gives you his excellent analysis every weekday on Inside the Locker Room, right here on Tide 100.9.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. I'll get right up to the Yellowwood hotline. If you get on X now, if you're a basketball fan, everything is Kentucky. Everything you see is about Kentucky. And if you want to follow what's going on with the Wildcats, and you can follow Ben Roberts at Ben Roberts HL. He is the writer for the Lexington Herald Leader that covers Kentucky basketball. Good morning, Ben. It's supposed to be a slow time of year for you. I guess that's out the window, isn't it?
Hey, Ben, I appreciate you.
Yeah, well, it's definitely out the. Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely out the window now. It seems like it's never slow anymore with the portal and everything, but it has not been slow at all the past 3 weeks or so.
Ben, well, these players that are there now, were they afforded the opportunity to visit with a new coach before they made their decision, or did they make their decision just based on
a coaching change. I think that's big. If he could have kept the ones that were there now, he would be off to a fairly decent start. Can you answer that? Were they able to talk to the new coach?
Yeah, well, they were. Part of the problem and part of the continued frustration, I guess is the word, with Cal, is that they had 10 guys off last season's team that were underclassmen that had remaining eligibility, and even if Cal had stayed, it was looking like 1, 2, maybe 3 of those guys were going to come back. That's if Cal had stayed.
Oh,
so
wow.
Yeah. So that, and it was going to be another one of those, and it wasn't like they had 7 NBA draft picks. I mean, they're going to have a few, but
that's an
a lot of those guys
comment there. That's very interesting there.
Yeah, a lot of those guys were expected to transfer anyway. A lot obviously were and have gone in the NBA draft, but yeah. So yeah, Mark was hired Friday officially. He didn't even get to town until Saturday. Was introduced Sunday. I know he had had phone calls with, at the very least, he had phone calls with everybody who was remaining, which at that point there were, it was only about half that group. And then he is sitting down with as many as he can. He actually sat down with Zvonimir Ivicic, I believe it was yesterday. But Ivicic announced after that he was following Cal to Arkansas, which was obviously the plan all along. So, I mean, they all, he's talked to all of them. He's had conversations with as many as many conversations as he can. But I think this thing was breaking apart anyway, and it certainly looks like it might be a completely fresh start at this point.
The kid from Croatia, kids from overseas, they can't get NIL money, correct, Ben?
Well, it's a little tricky, and it's different for different states. Oscar was able to get NIL money. Different state legislatures have written their rules on NIL in different ways. Kentucky happened to write theirs when Oscar Tshiebwe was already an established star.
Okay.
So yeah, that's that varies from state to state, and there were other instances of that. But yeah, in general, it is difficult, but there are loopholes around it. One of those being that if you do NIL in different countries, for instance. So, like, if, let's say, Alabama has an international basketball player and NATO takes them, this is obviously a hypothetical, NATO takes them to Canada this summer for a trip for a week, that player could do NIL on the ground in Canada and get the revenue that would come from that, even if it's for American companies or whatever.
Oh wow!
Pretty dumb. It's a pretty dumb situation.
Right? That place. Is that correct?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and that's what the first year. That's what Oscar did. They had a summer trip down to the Bahamas, and he actually didn't. He played less than normal on that trip because a lot of his time instead of practice, they had him doing these NIL opportunities because he could get that done while he was down there.
They're a step ahead of everybody else.
Yeah. Ben, when the news first broke about Mark Pope, I had met Mark at University of Georgia. I knew what kind of guy he was, but it was very negative, to be quite honest with you, on X, I guess is what you call it. And then all of a sudden Rick Pitino comes out, and man, he is so excited and talks about he'll write a check for NIL, and talks about Mark Pope coming home. Even Rex Chapman, who's a pretty controversial figure, he's very positive about it. And things just seem to change all of a sudden. And then, you fast forward to Sunday, the press conference, and tell us what your expectation was, what you thought would show up. And then obviously they just kept coming. It's like maybe the first 8A game when Nick Saban was here. They just kept coming. Just talk about from the time he was announced, the negativity, and then to what happened on Sunday.
Yeah, man, it was. Well, yeah, we'll get to Sunday, but it has been a strange week and a half in Lexington. I'll say that much.
Yeah.
Thursday night, I think it was a shock to a lot of people because I think a lot of people woke up Thursday morning, if they went to bed at all Wednesday night, thinking Scott Drew was going to be the next head coach. That didn't happen. And then Danny Hurley was never really a serious option, but a lot of UK fans were led to believe that he was. That didn't happen. Billy Donovan, I think, could have been a serious option. And a lot of people thought, oh, now they're maybe just going to wait on Billy. And then Mitch Barnhart, the AD, goes to interview Mark Pope. And then it slowly started to come out that not only was he interviewing him, that he's going to get the job.
Yeah.
And yeah, the social media backlash was pretty intense. It's always difficult to tell how real that is. All you need to see is a few comments from a few people, and you think, oh, the whole fan base is against them. You got to keep in mind that this was a sleep-deprived fan base who had been up basically since Sunday night on very little sleep and getting very little in their daily lives and work lives done. So yeah, it was a surreal feeling kind of Thursday, and I think part of that, everybody knew Mark Pope around here, obviously, but I don't think a lot of people had followed his career. I watched BYU games last season because it was Mark Pope, and I had heard their offense was really interesting and fun to watch, and it was. I don't think a lot of Kentucky fans did that.
Mm-hmm.
I think when they woke up, or if they stayed up late Thursday night, woke up Friday, did their research on him and kind of what he brings as a coach, I think then it slowly started to turn. It helped a lot when Rick came out, when all of his former players, Jeff Shepard texted me at 7:45 in the morning on Friday, and he was pumped up and wanted to talk. And so we did a story with Jeff, who's obviously the father of Reed Shepard.
Yes.
So I mean, and I think that also told a lot of fans that this very clearly was not just, hey, a bunch of former players that sticking up for their buddy. This was guys who really, truly believed in Mark Pope as Kentucky's coach. And another part of that was after 15 years of John Calipari, and this is not to discount anything that John Calipari did, because there's 4 banners hanging over in Rupp Arena from his time here, but a lot of people, a vast majority of people around here felt like the last 15 years, this was John Calipari's program. It wasn't the University of Kentucky basketball program. It was John Calipari's program. And I think, especially everything that went on Friday with Rick and those 90 guys and Rex Chapman, people felt like they were getting their program back, that this was going to go back to being the University of Kentucky men's basketball program. And obviously Mark Pope is the head of that, but it was just really kind of a cathartic feeling for a lot of people. And the more that they felt that, I think the more that it spread. And talking about Sunday night, man, I've never experienced anything like that in my life. And it was weird because when I first heard they were doing it at Rupp Arena, I was like, Rupp Arena, this might be a little embarrassing. That's a big building.
Yeah.
Even if you get 6,000-8,000, it looks empty. And then by Saturday night, I texted my boss, and I just heard so many people, friends, family, neighbors around town saying, oh, we're going to this. We're going to this. We're excited about this. And I texted my boss, and I said, we might want to have some extra photographers or something down there, because they might fill this place. So I get there Sunday a couple hours before the event, and they have a big curtain up. They have them at center court facing one side. Clearly, they think maybe we're going to get one side of the arena filled, which is a good 10,000. They got a big curtain up, and it's about 10 feet tall. And about 45 minutes before the thing starts, that side is filled up, and the curtain drops down to about 6 feet tall because they're letting people in on the other side, and they want to make sure they can see Pope.
Sure.
And then I'll look over about 20 minutes later, the curtain is gone. They've just taken it out of the arena completely. And then by the start, I think everybody has seen the visuals. It was just an amazing, amazing scene.
Yeah.
Besides the ones that he's talked to that he's trying to get to stay, the ones that Cal has recruited, supposedly coming into the university, is there going to be a bad change there? Because if there is, he's got to, it's going to be a little bit of a struggle that first year. How does he stand with Cal's recruits is the question.
Well, they're pretty much all going elsewhere, and probably at least a few to Arkansas. So Cal had the number 2 class in the country behind Duke. He had 6 guys 4 in that 5-star territory. He's going to lose. Mark's going to lose 5 of those 6 guys. I think it's fair to say at this point.
Great.
And I'd say at least 2 or 3 are going to go to Arkansas. Maybe all 5. Maybe wouldn't shock me if all 5 went.
Wow.
The one he's keeping is Travis Perry, who is about a 6-foot guard from Western Kentucky, Mr. Basketball, all-time leading scorer in Kentucky high school basketball history. He's not a lottery pick. He's rated, even lower than Reed Sheppard was coming out last year. So it would be an even bigger shock if he had a Reed Sheppard type season, which was already a big shock. But he was at the ceremony actually Sunday. He hasn't said it, but he's going to stay in the class. So that if he doesn't bring anybody back from the current team, that's where he starts. Is Travis Perry, a 4-star recruit.
The third question, because I'm a recruiting guy as far as players win games. So he's losing in those 2 areas there. In the area of himself, kids that he's recruited for BYU. Any comments at all by him about who he might be able to get, or is he keeping that pretty much closed mouth?
Yeah, so actually, right as you guys called me, his number 1 recruit for his BYU class committed to Kentucky. So that's actually his first official player for next season. Colin Chandler, he was actually in the 22 class of 2022, and he was a top 40 recruit, highest recruit in a decade for BYU, best ever in Mark Pope's career. And he went on his 2-year mission trip 2 years ago. So he's coming back this summer from that. So all this news broke while he was over on his mission trip overseas. But he has sent word back that he's going to be coming to Kentucky to play for Mark. A guard, shooting guard, a very good start for that group. He's going to have Travis Perry back. Obviously not a lot of top flight freshmen still left, and he's already working on transfer portal guys, and he's got some visits lined up. Got a really good post player coming in this weekend, actually.
The trip they have to make to go over it for the Mormons.
Yeah.
Do you feel that this will affect recruiting to where I go in as another coach and try to, downplay that or cut that up a little bit in a nice way, as far as they're having to go for it and miss a year of basketball?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think that was made. I think that was a unique situation for him at BYU.
Yeah,
he's going to be recruiting, different players at Kentucky. He's not going to be going all in like Cal was with trying to get 6 McDonald's All-Americans in every class.
Yeah, sure.
But he's gonna be working from a different recruiting pool than what he was working with at
those
BYU.
Trips are over when he gets to Kentucky. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, his relationship with obviously Sheppard is Reed Sheppard, the son. Is he projected as a lottery pick? I hadn't seen that, but and he said, "Hey, I'm going to be praying every night he comes back." I know there's going to be a lot of pressure on the kid probably to come back. What's happening with their NIL? You would think that the money would be pouring in right now with that crowd that you saw on Sunday night, Ben. So is there a legitimate chance Reed Sheppard could come back?
Well, the NIL is pouring in. If he did come back, he would make millions of dollars, which is what he made this past season, is my understanding. As far as realistic, I would be surprised because he is projected as a lottery pick. If there was any possible way he was going to come back, I think this is it. Because, Mark Pope and Jeff Sheppard were actually roommates. They were not only teammates on that 96 team, and for the 2 years before that, they were roommates and very, very close friends. Pope is really close to Reed, to the entire Sheppard family and vice versa. As I said, Jeff texted me first thing Friday morning and was just super pumped up to talk about Mark becoming coach. But I mean, Reed is a lottery pick. I think he's going to go through the process. I think there's going to be an announcement here soon that he is going to enter the draft most likely, and I would think keep his options open to see what that feedback is, and then they'll sit down at the end of it and figure it out. I'd be surprised if he came back, but like if Cal had been here, I don't think there's any chance he comes back. If Scott Drew, and this is not knocking Cal or Scott Drew or whoever else, I think he was definitely gone to the NBA draft. I think maybe now you could say there's a small % chance that he might return.
Barry, this is the first guy that we've ever had on our show that said the NIL money is pouring in.
Yes, it is. He just said
we've never had one say it's pouring in, but it is, isn't it, Barry?
I believe it's pouring in. In Coach Pope's press conference, he seemed to hit all the things about Kentucky basketball, about the SEC tournament, about we sit around and talk about our college days, not our NBA days. They all seemed like they were sort of shots at what Calipari believed in and what he was doing. It was the exact opposite, maybe, that had turned off the Kentucky fans since they hadn't been winning in the NCAA tournament. Was that scripted, you think? Did he do that to kind of win those people over? Because it's something different than what they've been hearing in the past.
Yeah, so that's pretty smart guy, huh?
Yeah,
I think they were. Yeah, they were. I don't even know that they were thinly veiled. I think it was pretty clear what he was getting at. But I also think he believes that.
Yeah.
And if you look back at his history at BYU, and obviously his history going back to a player at Kentucky, those are principles that he believes in. And those are principles, partly those are principles that he believes in, I'm sure, because those are principles that were hammered into him for 3 years by Rick Pitino at Kentucky in the 90s, where you're not that the Cal guys weren't playing for the front of their jersey, but there was kind of this self-fulfilling prophecy with Kentucky basketball that, you're a 5-star recruit. You're going to come to Kentucky for a year. You're going to go to the NBA draft. If you've done anything less than that, you're a failure. And that was not said, but that was the feeling around here. And that even if you come in as the number 8 recruit, if you go out as a mid-second round pick, you're still going to go because that was the plan all along. And it's hard, and Cal did an unbelievable job of managing egos and managing expectations for the 9 months that they were here. But at the end of the day, I think everybody knew that those guys were going to go, no matter what had happened over those 9 months. And I think Mark Pope is it's going to be a different mentality. It's going to be a different narrative when he brings guys in that Cal didn't promise anything, but he did promise the NBA draft at the end of things.
Yeah.
And I don't think Mark Pope's going to promise that. I think Mark Pope's going to say, you come in here and you work your butt off, and we'll see where you are at the NBA draft at the end of the season. Maybe you need to come back. Maybe you need to do something else. And I think that's what Kentucky basketball fans want. It's not that they're holding their nose at the one and done guys, but if you're going to be one and done, you need to be a Rob Dillingham or a Reed Shepherd, where you're going to be the number 12 pick in the draft, number 8 pick in the draft. You don't go one and done and go undrafted and play in the G League for 2 years.
Yeah, and you just love Kentucky. All right, take me through. You got all the people in there, and the bus comes rolling into Rupp Arena. And then the 96, I don't know how many were on that bus. Those guys start getting off the bus. Did people know what was happening there when that bus rolled in? Then all of a sudden, Coach Pope's holding that 96 national championship trophy. Talk about the scene inside Rupp Arena when that happened.
Yeah, well, the scene had already been building. I mean, it was crazy, and there was just this energy in the air. Rex Chapman said afterward that it was basically it felt like Kentucky basketball in the 90s. And if you were around here then, you knew what he was talking about because it felt like it was the only thing going on in the state of Kentucky. Like the world stopped in the state of Kentucky when Kentucky basketball was playing. It hadn't felt like that in a while.
Yes.
And it also felt like he mentioned the state tournaments in Rupp Arena. They're well attended now, but they're not as well attended as they were 20 years ago because they didn't have the internet. You couldn't watch the stream, online or on your TV or whatever. You had to go to watch these players play, and people went whether you had a school in there or not. You just went to go because you wanted to see good basketball, good high school basketball, and that's what this felt like. So when that bus rolled up, the '96 team, when they came back for their championship celebration, they came in a bus, and this was obviously why they did this, to throw back to that feeling. And when those guys started rolling out, and Jack Givens and Rex Chapman and Richie Farmer and Darius Miller from more recent Cal team, people it kind of kept building and building. And, they were chanting Goose when Jack comes out. Rex Chapman gets the big pop. And then those 96 guys come out with Tony Delk and Derek Anderson, Jeff Shepard. And people knew who was coming out last. And not only did Mark Pope come out last, but he's 6'10". He steps off that bus and he holds up in his left hand the 1996 National Championship trophy. And when he did that, that was one of the biggest pops I've heard in Rupp Arena. And we heard some big ones this season, but it was right up there.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing. That was an absolute great idea.
Yeah.
Do you think that all of this happened? Do you think that all of this happened, or would this have happened had he not lost that first game in the NCAA this year?
No, I don't. It would have been interesting to see, like, if they had beat Oakland and then lost to NC State in the round of 32, because there would have been a lot of disgruntled people. There would have been a lot of people who wanted Cal gone, but I don't think it would have been enough to get to where they got. And people got to remember, like, Mitch Barnhart came out and said he's coming back. There were 2 or 3 days there where it looked like it never really was going to happen behind the scenes, but some people thought that he might get fired, that they might have to pay that $33 million buyout. They weren't going to do that, but a lot of people wanted that to happen. But there was so much angst, and I think that's part of the reason that had John Calipari looking elsewhere. So I don't know if there was that level of angst. If there wasn't that, I don't know that Cal entertains Arkansas to the degree that he did, and then ultimately leaves. It would have been interesting to see if they get to the Sweet 16. If they get to that second week of the tournament, I don't think he leaves at all. So yeah, it's interesting. It's funny the way things worked out, and that's the way they worked out here.
Yeah. Lastly, we're talking with Ben Roberts with the Lexington Herald. You look at these NBA playoffs, and I go down Oklahoma City, their best players, Kentucky, Denver, Kentucky, Minnesota, Kentucky, the Lakers, Kentucky. What kind of coach is John Calipari? Is he a good coach? And did he underachieve when you see the talent that he actually had that went on to the NBA?
Yeah, I mean, he's a good coach, and anybody, and people around here said he wasn't, and I know people all over the country said he wasn't. I mean, go back and watch those UMass teams that had Marcus Camby and a bunch of guys that you heard of if you watched at the time, but nobody knows now. Go back and look at those Memphis teams. People know Derrick Rose, but they don't remember Rodney Carney and Douglas Roberts and those guys. I mean, he won a lot of games in different styles with different players that did not go on to be what these Kentucky guys have gone on to be. So yeah, he can coach. As far as underachieving, I think it's hard to say that because a lot of those teams were freshmen. They were all freshmen, or they were mostly freshmen. And it's hard to get those guys on the same page. You look at that Julius Randle team that ended up going to the national title game. They came in as an 8 seed. They weren't even ranked in the top 25, and they just happened to find it at the right moment. And some of these other teams, maybe they would have found it if the season lasted a month longer. Maybe they would have found it if this guy or that guy didn't get hurt. If you're going to go all in on freshmen, you kind of have to have everything go exactly the right way, and things don't do that, and that's why you don't go all in on freshmen.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, he can coach, and as far as underachieving, I people will make their own judgments on that. I think it's hard to say that, but you look at all those great NBA players that he has right now, 7 NBA All-Stars. It's an argument.
Nate Oates' name was coming out before John had even put his letter of resignation in. If Nate Oates would have wanted that job, would he have gotten it over Mark Pope?
I don't think so, because I think Mitch Barnhart, Scott Drew was obviously his number one choice. It would have been interesting to me to see if Billy Donovan's season was over, how hard they would have gone after Billy, if Billy would have been number two. But when it was all said and done, Mark Pope was clearly number two on Mitch Barnhart's list, and that was crazy to a lot of people on Thursday night, and I know it's still somewhat crazy to a lot of people right now, but I think that was his list when he started out. But yeah, I mean, and I think that's the partner Mitch wanted to lead that program. But a lot of Kentucky fans, even over Scott Drew, even over Danny Hurley, wanted Nate Oates just because of that style he plays, and obviously, that great run not only to the Final Four, but obviously the number one overall seed last year. He checked a lot of boxes for a lot of Kentucky fans.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for being on. You did a great job today, and Barry and I sure appreciate you taking time to stay with us this long. How's that new baby?
Yeah, they're doing good.
Yeah.
She's actually turning 2 tomorrow, so they grow up quick, but they keep you on your toes, especially when you're trying to deal with the coaching search and a coaching departure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we certainly appreciate you being on. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ben.
All right. Yep, thanks a lot, guys.
All right, there's Ben Roberts. Wow. Yeah. All right, let's talk about Bryant Bank before we get to break.
Well, Bryant Bank, 4 locations. We probably usually start that off in Tuscaloosa, but Bryant Bank is in Birmingham, Columbiana, then Gulf Shores. And if you're looking for a bank with a banker that can help you right off the bat and be courteous with you and know what you might need, then Bryant Bank is the place. You can bank online. Around the clock, which I think is very important. They have great freedom and flexibility to bank the way you want to bank. The Tuscaloosa area banks really do a great job for the high schools in the city. The banks have been there since 2005, so it's had a long longevity, and they will do an excellent job of doing everything they possibly can to not only help you, but to help the community, which I think is important. So. I've had people ask me about where they wanted to bank, or what about Bryant Bank, or are you really satisfied with it as you say you are on the radio show? And I am. I've got some things I'm going to do for my family, and Bryant Bank is going to help me because I'm getting of that age. So there are small businesses that are targeted by fraud attempts. And Bryant Bank is on top of that. So my suggestion to you is you go by, tell them you heard Barry now on Inside the Locker Room.
That's LUMEdeodorant.com, code 555 to save 15% today.
This report is sponsored by Positive Coaching Alliance.
Catch every game and every moment right here. This is your home of Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. Appreciate Ben Roberts, who just joined us to get an insight about Kentucky basketball and the feeling about John Calipari. And in the first hour, we had Kevin Skarbinski. We appreciate him being on with us. We went a little long with that, so we'll go Justin one more break. So we'll take this break and then come back and wrap up the show. Tomorrow, 7:30, Coach Gene Stallings will join us, and then Bill Cameron will be with us in the 8:15 hour. You're just a Tide 100.9. It's the home of Alabama sports.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. Right lane remains blocked for road work on eastbound 2059 as you approach Joe Malisham, but there's very little, if any, backup there. If you're continuing further east, it's just an 8-minute drive from the 359 interchange out to Skyland Boulevard.
Use all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The weather stays warm and dry today, partly sunny with a high at 83. Tonight, increasingly cloudy, the low 63. Tomorrow, mostly cloudy, a chance of widely scattered showers, the high 79. Thursday, a mix of sun and clouds, the high 87. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 67 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Inside the Locker Room with Wimp and Barry on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. We appreciate Justin taking great care of us this morning. Look forward to tomorrow's show. Always great to have Coach Stallings on, and obviously Coach Stallings was very close with Steve Sloan, and just continuing to honor Coach Sloan. You know, all you hear about is what a great man that Coach Sloan was. I did get the chance to meet him a couple of times, but it'd be fun to talk to Coach Stallings about Steve Sloan. We'll do that tomorrow. Also, Bill Cameron will join us in the 8:15 hour. Auburn basketball is working the transfer portal just like Alabama. Also, we'll talk about the football guys that do hit the portal. There'll be some surprises come out, I'm sure, but Alabama knows what they need now. This coaching staff has a much better grasp on where they need depth, where they need starters, what they need. So I'm sure they'll go out and get the guys they need in order to have a successful season next year. All right, that's it for today's show. We'll get out of here and make way for the Gary Harris Show, so keep it locked in here all day long. You listen to Tide 100.9 and 1230 AM WTBC. It's the home of Alabama sports.